So where does that information that they get come from? So the landlord's going to get this from a third-party company that does the screening reports. And those are what we call CRAs. They are a consumer reporting agency because they collect information about you and provide it to the landlord. That makes them a consumer reporting agency. Just like if you have credit card debts or mortgage, car loan, and things like that, those companies report on your credit report, and they are consumer reporting agencies also. So those are the ones we typically think about. But these companies that report for tenant screening are also a consumer reporting agency. And they get their information from what's called furnishers of information. So a furnisher of information, one example that we have here is a debt collector, or even a company that bought a debt. They're furnishing that information to the company, and they might have a rental debt, which is what we talked about in our last episode about the collection of past due rent. So that might be turned over to a debt collector or debt buyer by the landlord. And when that happens, it may or may not be correct information. So it's really important to think about this. And if you get turned down for a rental unit you've applied for, or an application you've applied for a rental unit on, don't just give up. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Here's just a little bit of a laundry list. It certainly is not all encompassing. I don't know if all of these companies are still in business. I believe they are. But these are just some of the tenant screening companies that are out there. And there's a lot of them. And you can see I've highlighted Experian has one. They're one of the big three credit reporting agencies. And TransUnion has one as well. So that's just an idea of how many of these companies are out there. It's not just like TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. It's all these little companies that make profit doing this. I also wanted to mention that some of these companies do what's called instant tenant screening. So, and that's obviously going to cost more because it's instantaneous or within 24 hours typically. And that's even worse problem for inaccurate reporting when it's being done so fast. A lot more potential for mixing up names and things like that. So it's important to realize that if it's being done that quickly, instantaneously, basically, and you get rejected because of the report, you may want to look at that because it may not be what you think it is. You might say, oh, well, there was that one time I didn't pay my rent and I got evicted, and it might be that, but it could also be something else that's causing a problem. So you always want to follow up. There's different kinds of errors on these reports, similar to your credit report. It can be anything from mixing up your name with someone else's name to having social security numbers that are one digit off, or really just getting bad information or not getting complete information. These are the kinds of things that can happen. And so, typical errors that we see in credit reports, as well as tenant screening reports. And one of the worst things is with the tenant screening is, as I mentioned earlier, one of the things that's included quite often is a criminal background check. And if they've got incorrect information on you that has to do with a criminal history, you definitely want to do something about that.